wrong with the provocative photos that they post on social media. I did an experiment to find out what men really think of Jessica's and Tiffany's photo.
I wouldn't say skanky, but
her face is really cute, but I can't tell if the rest of it's real.
What's the first word that comes to mind?
stripper. Definitely promiscuous.
Would you ever date a girl like this?
No, I wouldn't date her, but I would have some fun with her.
Why do you think guys no longer want to get married?
Well, for one, once they are married and a woman has like any sort of opportunity or inkling to want to get divorced, she will dominate him in divorce court. She will take all his money and she will typically take care of the kids. Obviously, that's not all the case, but you know, the majority. I think it's like, I forget what the percentage is, but the majority of divorces are initiated by women. Another thing is that modern women tend to want all of the benefits of being a traditional woman without actually being a traditional woman.
Listen, bro, send her back to wherever she came from and replace her. Find you somebody who's willing to meet your needs and wants. Life is way too short.
And with that said, gentlemen, we are back. Marriage or Hellnah family, let's get it popping. Now, as you fellas start watching this video, I'm going to need you to do me a favor. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please hit that subscribe button. It's not going to cost you anything. But also make sure that you hit the like button and feel free to leave any thoughts down there in the comment section. Now, fellas, the reason why I wanted to do this video here today, because as you know, the Passport brothers have been on fire this week, making headlines, and they're showing that their movement is really strong. But the responses to some of these Passport brothers conversations have really ticked me off. Fellas, I saw women coming out their mouths talking about, let them go, nobody needs them, they're not protectors, they're not good fathers, all of this other types of BS. But then I saw something today where an older lady who knows better sit up here and made a video about brothers can't have a passport, they can't go anywhere because they have kids. This lady is obviously misinformed. Most black men don't even have children, but it was the language that she was using, trying to make it seem like brothers have to stay behind and deal with a bunch of bullshit. As if these women don't need these men, not only for their lives, but also for the children's lives. But as we go on in this video, fellas, it is Friday, and you know I'm gonna show you some love. And how I'm going to go about doing that is sharing with you guys some of my own original content. And I'm going to talk to you guys about things that your father should have taught you. Now, the Marriage or Hellnah version, not the Kevin Samuels one. Shout out to brother Kevin Samuels. I hope you're up there resting in your power.
Look, y'all, every fucking day my baby daddy come here with one meal for my child, but I have 3 other kids. We have 1 kid together, but he only want to come and bring one thing to McDonald's. But what about my other kids? How come you can't feed my other kids McDonald's though? Like, that's bogus as hell. Like, you're not finna sit here and make my other kids feel left out, and you're only bringing one child something to eat. Look, there he go, and I bet you he only got one thing in there. I bet you he don't even. I'm finna expose out of him so people can see how he really is. It ain't more than enough food in that bag for everybody. What's up? Because I'm finna expose you.
Now, I know most of you guys have already seen that video, but the point I'm trying to make is, what man wants to sit around here and deal with that shit? Nobody does. But I know that that man probably felt like shit after that, because he wasn't able to bring him food, to see him, put a smile on his face, and let the kid know that he is loved by his father. But a lot of these modern women out here will try to rob you of that moment. But fellas, don't worry about it, because I got your back on this one. And some men are leaving for different reasons. Because they're tired and fed up of the war against masculinity. Because they're tired of the feminist rhetoric. But also, they are tired of the way that they have been treated. We are the ones that plant the seed. But we've also been the same men that have built this society. But I also want to talk about something else. When you don't appreciate men and you don't appreciate fathers, most of you women out there who have kids are robbing your children of a chance to know their hero the same way I knew mine, and learning those valuable lessons that can help these children going forward. So let's kind of get into that a little bit more, because I think most modern women need to know what they are doing when they single-handedly sabotage their children's future, especially the boys. Now, you know me, I'm always doing my due diligence, and I happened to come across this article to be able to educate not only the men, but any women that might run across this, so that way you know exactly the path that you are taking your child down. So ladies, don't be so excited about talking about you don't need men, because you do, whether you know it or not. The father absence crisis in America. 18.4 million children, 1 in 4, without a biological father, stepfather, or adoptive father at home. Research shows when a child is raised in a father absent home, they are affected. 4 times greater risk of poverty. Who's seeing that? I'll wait. More likely to have behavioral problems, a lack of discipline. Who's seeing that? 2 times greater risk of infant mortality, more likely to go to prison, more likely to commit crime. 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen, more likely to face abuse and neglect, more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol, 2 times more likely to suffer obesity, 2 times more likely to drop out of school. Now me, I was blessed to have a father in my life, and I know that was robbed from some of you, but it's all right as I go through this. Now, in order to tell this story, I have to tell this story correctly. The man that you're seeing there on the screen is my father. Sharp dressing man, always has been. Big image guy. Blue collar worker. But he took pride in his appearance. And even as a kid, he would take me to Barney's and, just have me sit there and watch him to learn a little bit more about style. Now, that double-breasted jacket, definitely not my style. But he would expose me to things so I could see him getting fly and learn what it's like to be like a man, right? And as I got older, he would take me to Barney's, whether we went to regular Barney's or whether we went to Barney's Warehouse. And I really appreciated those moments. To learn how to dress, to learn how to tie a tie, to learn how to shine your shoes off. A lot of the things that you guys already know. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about the things that he taught me. The first point would have to be work ethic and health. Let me talk about the health part first. This man always had organic food in the house. And if you're a kid, you know organic food is not something that you want, but you appreciate it as you get older in life. But this man would always eat healthy foods. And the reason why is because he was an athlete. The man used to run in the New York City Marathon. He would take me up to Boston with him when he ran the Boston Marathon. Now, he didn't finish top or anything like that. But as a kid, I remember just being right there in Central Park, just waiting to see him as he would run on by. Didn't matter what place he was in. Just to be there and witness my old man running across the finish line was enough for me. He would also ride his bike around the city. Man's an avid bike rider, even till this day. Now that actually got passed down. I love riding my bike, whether I'm in New York or whether I'm in Atlanta. I ride it all the time. But it was also about how to live a healthy lifestyle. Because see, as a man, you got to have your fitness up. Whether you watch this channel or you watch other channels. This is the reason why men in this space always try to tell you to take care of your health and take care of your body. Hit the gym. The reason being is that as men, we need endurance. We need strength to make it through our days. But I'm also going to talk about work ethic. Even as a kid, I remember getting my first job. I think I was 14 years old, and I was working at a Blockbuster Video. I hated that fucking job. I really did. But it was my first ever job. And you know what he told me? He said, son, it's not about whether you like the job or whether you don't like the job at this age. It's about getting in the routine of working. And I was like, please, what are you talking about? Because I'm young and I'm dumb at the time. But he said, look at me. And then I said, yeah, I see you going to work every morning, because I thought nothing of it. And he broke it down a little further to me. He said, son, your father is the first one in the office and the last one to leave. When things came up at the job, whether it be a promotion, now some promotions are based on political relationships in the office, but keep in mind, he's a blue collar guy. So when those promotions came up, it was very hard to pass him up. So you get the picture. He was more of a hard work type of guy. Me, I'm completely the opposite. I've always been a smart worker. There was a time in my life to where I had hit a work snag, if you will. I was working at a telecom company in Atlanta. Now, my background has always been in sales for the most part. And I was number one in the company for new business revenue and new business units. I had been with this company for about 4 years and I was working my ass off. But I just so happened to be in a relationship that was about to end. That relationship was with my son's mother. And at that time, I just couldn't really focus on work because I was thinking about my son and, missing him and caring for him all those years and, just having to deal with the BS that goes along with a woman not wanting you to see your kid. And you can't understand it. You're frustrated. You're at your wit's end. And I just couldn't take it anymore. But I was productive at work. But the situation drove me so freaking crazy to where I just couldn't stay in Atlanta anymore. So I ended up going back to New York, right? Now, keep in mind, like I said, I'm frustrated. I'm being lazy at this moment. I never have been really lazy as a kid. I've always put in work. But I was just so frustrated of dealing with the baby mama terrorist. Shout out to Mr. Palmer. Now, she wasn't a real bad terrorist here, but she really did a number on me. Because keep in mind, my father's my hero. My father's father is his hero. I wanted to be that hero for my son. And the situation didn't work out. So I ended up having to go to New York. And I just needed to clear my mind at the time because I was just going through it like none other. You start doing lazy things that you're not used to doing. So I'm sitting there, I'm playing video games, I'm putting on weight, eating bad food. And then one day I went to my father and I said, Dad, I don't know what the hell's going on here. I feel like I'm trying to do everything I possibly can do to make this woman happy so that way she doesn't take my kid away from me. And he says, son, you need to understand this, is that no matter what you do in life, it is your fault when you are a man. You're always going to get blamed for it. Now, I didn't know what the hell he was talking about at the time, I really didn't learn exactly what the hell he was talking about until 2 years ago. I stumbled across a Patrice O'Neal video, and Patrice O'Neal was talking about, everything you do in your relationship is going to be your fault as a man. And at the time, when I heard Patrice O'Neal say that, shout out to the late great Patrice O'Neal. When I heard my father say that, I said, oh my God, my dad was preaching the same thing that Patrice O'Neal was talking about. Like, was Patrice O'Neal listening to my dad, or was my dad listening to Patrice O'Neal? And then I had to think about it after. And I said, well, my father's in his 70s. But the one thing it showed me is that Black men, as well as other men, have been experiencing this same frustration for at least the last 50 years. Because how would my dad know this? That's a funny story. One thing that you start to find out about your father, if you have a relationship with him, or let's say you don't have a relationship with him, but you want to have a relationship with him, I encourage you to reach out. Don't hide that. The reason being is that you will, 8 times out of 10, maybe 9 times out of 10, discover that your father went through some of the same exact things that you went through. What do I mean by this? My father had my brother when he was 16 years old, but he experienced that pain nonetheless. So here I am having my first child at the age of 21. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So as he's telling me I'm going to get the blame for everything as a man, the next day I woke up and we had a New York sports club that was at 14th Street and about 6th Avenue, relatively close to the apartment. I went over to New York Sports Club, and I was just in there, just releasing all my frustration, putting that work in at the gym. And it's mighty funny how my life started to turn around after that. Just that simple conversation turned everything around. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I started eating better. Said, hey, this porky shit is not going to work. Chicks ain't feeling that. So I'm in the gym, pumping iron. I'm doing better. Just that little bit of work I was doing in the gym led to me having a better lifestyle, led to me being in a better mental space. And I got a big call from a job that I really wanted, out the blue. It's funny how those things work. When you're doing what you need to do, holistically, your life will improve, especially as a man. So that next job, you already know. I was in there working my butt off every single day, making sure I'm on time, making sure I'm the last one to leave, putting in that work. I stayed with that company for a while. The second talking point I want to talk to you guys about is culture. See, in the Black community, we have our own culture, but sometimes you might not be exposed to a lot of other cultures, and that could be due to where you live and where you're from. But growing up in New York City, that man made sure I saw a lot. And let me tell you how this presents itself. So my father retires from his job. He said, son, you got to take over this apartment. Now I got to pay the rent. Nobody's helping me out. It's not like, I was given the apartment and I had to do shit. Of course, I had to work and pay the bills. But my father said, hey, I'm going up to Vermont. And as I'm moving around in the city, I'm hanging out with my boys. And me and my boys, we would go out all the time. We can go to like bars, lounges, anything. Now, my friends who didn't experience culture the way I did, if we walked into an establishment that wasn't filled with Black people or Latino people, sometimes these guys would be very hesitant. They would be like, oh, the vibe's off. Something's wrong in here. It just felt uncomfortable. Me, I never felt that. So my dad calls me one day and I was like, yeah, I was just out with the fellas, man. We went to, a spot up in, I think we was at a spot on 2nd Avenue. And I'm telling my dad, I'm like, we walk in the spot, you know, it's a lot of people in there, it's a lot of girls up in there, but my boys, they were just hesitant. I'm like, I don't get that, Dad. Like, why are they so weird? Like, you know, they feel uncomfortable around people that don't look like them. You know, why are they so shy? Why are they so hesitant? And I was like, for me, it's nothing. You know, I walk in there, I'm comfortable. My dad laughed over the phone. He was cracking up. And I was like, why are you laughing? You know, what's so funny? And he was like, son, it didn't start off that way for you. I made sure that you got a chance to experience things. And I was like, what you talking about? And he was like, you don't remember going to Mets games as a kid? And I was like, of course, you know, Hojo, we talking Strawberry, we talking Dwight Gooden, you know, when those two players were, you know, playing baseball and doing what they were supposed to do, not getting into trouble. Shout out to them 86 Mets. But he also did a lot of other things. He took me to Cooperstown, which is the Baseball Hall of Fame. He took me to Springfield, Mass, which is the Basketball Hall of Fame. He would also get me involved in like races within the community, making sure I was playing sports or doing something that kept me active. He says, what about that time I took you to see Diana Ross in Central Park? And I said, what? Diana Ross in Central Park? I don't remember that now. Keep in mind, I was like 5. Like, why the hell would I remember that? And in that moment, he said, son, go back there in the safe. I go back there in the safe, and he says, open that briefcase up. And once you open up that briefcase, pull out that file. So I pulled out the file, and it was actually a newspaper publication, like an article. And here goes my little damn face in the article, right there at the Diana Ross concert. Hell, I was 5 years old. I forgot that. But my point that I'm trying to make to you is that he showed me a lot of culture things and exposed me to things to where when I was around my Italian American friends, my Irish American friends, when I was around my Polish American friends, Latino groups, Asian groups, whatever, I was just as comfortable in my own skin as anybody else. I never felt that hesitancy, that sense like I didn't belong. Now, as I grew up, culture would take me to a lot of places. One of my first date night spots that I take a woman to, whether I'm in New York or whether I'm in Atlanta, is always the museum. Best first date spot ever. In New York, you can always go to the Metropolitan. And in Atlanta, I like to go to the High Museum of Art. But these little things that I thought I was doing because, you know, I was magically, you know, somehow comfortable in my own skin, I slowly started to realize that my dad was the one that made me comfortable in my own skin. The third thing was love and respect. My father being from the South, just like a lot of you other Southern gentlemen or gentlemen, period. It doesn't matter where you guys live at. I hope that you guys learned a lot about respect. Respect presents itself in a number of different ways. But for me, having respect for my old man was something that took me a long way in life. Because as an older black man, he was my hero. So I wouldn't dare disrespect him. But it also allowed me not to disrespect older men, no matter whether they were black, white, whatever. I always had a healthy respect for men in general. And I'm going to share with you of how respect can present itself in a different way. Meaning that I had always showed respect, like I said, for these older men. But what happens when the older men show respect to you? So I'm in Lenox Mall one day and I needed to buy some new dress shoes for my job. Now, I'm very particular when it comes to my dress shoes. I only like split toe Oxfords. That's black, brown. Them the only dress shoes that I wear, even till this day. I'm very classical like that. So I go in the store and this gentleman is helping a husband and a wife. And he says, you know, please be patient with me. I'll be over there in 1 second. And I looked at him and I said, It's totally fine. I understand. And I look him in his eyes, and I look the husband and the wife in the eyes. I go over to my section of the shoes that I'm looking for, and he had finished up with them. He came over to me, and he went through my shoes in just a certain type of way. Like he was showing me the utmost respect. He was like, hey, try this shoe out. Oh, I got this new one in the back. It just arrived. I think you might like it. And he brought that shoe to me. As I'm trying on the shoes that I want, I go to the register and I'm purchasing. I said, oh, I forgot something. I need a belt. Now, my father had already taught me that if you're going to buy a pair of new shoes, you got to buy a belt. But I'm going to show you how I earned everybody's respect up in there. So I said, hold up, I need the belt. So I back up from the register and I try to go find a matching belt for the shoes. And what did the wife do? The wife of the husband said, you know what? He's right. Babe, if you're going to buy shoes, get a belt too. And that husband, he came over to me and he said, thank you, young man. I learned a lot about style today, but you also added $40 to my bill. And we all just sat up in the store cracking up. But it was because I showed them the proper respect. Now let's talk about the love part. This one's kind of difficult to share, but just bear with me. I told you that I left and went to New York. But at an earlier period in time, when my son was around 2 years old, I was living in the West End area of Atlanta, going to school at Clark Atlanta University, and I was working 2 jobs. Now, my son's mom, she wasn't working at all at this time. But I didn't really hold that against her because I wanted to provide for her. I wanted to provide for my family. But this one particular day, he had came over my house and I was just overwhelmed with everything. Now, like a lot of you, I had experienced some level of, family members saying, your dad ain't this, your dad ain't that, your dad is, whatever. But I never believed any of that shit because this was my hero. But keep in mind, I heard a lot of this shit earlier on. But one day, my dad showed up in Atlanta and came to visit me. He wanted to see me and he wanted to see his grandson. And like I said, I was going through it at the time. I was just frustrated, trying to make ends meet. I was doing well, but it was just the whole ordeal of it. Maybe I was just doing a little bit too much. But I wanted to do these things, not only for my son, but my son's mom as well, I wanted to be able to take care of her. Keep in mind, this is a woman that I probably knew since 14, but I started dating at 18. But my dad had came over my house and my son's mom is there. And of course, my son is there, right? And he had said something that just rubbed me the wrong way. And I snapped. I don't know why I snapped. Like I said, it might have been the pressure of it all that just got underneath my skin. And I was just so hungry to prove that this was my place and I'm having ownership over this place in my family. But he wasn't challenging my authority or anything. I think I was just stressed out. And I go back in the bedroom and I lay down and, my son's mom is in the bed with me and she looks over at me and she says, well, thank you for standing up for, me and our family. But my dad didn't say anything to challenge her or my family. And I don't know why she made this comment, but it rubbed me the wrong way. And I looked at her and I said, hold on. Now, as I'm leaving the house, my dad goes, where you going? And I said, Dad, I'll be right back. I went to the store and my dad, keep in mind, I'm over 21 at this point, right? I went to the store and I copped the bottle. Now, my dad had put me on to the bottle that you are seeing right there on the screen. And I know he loved privilege at the time. And I just went and got a bottle. I cried all the way to the liquor store, but the liquor store wasn't that far. If you guys are in Atlanta and Abernathy, there's a liquor store right across the street from Kroger, right? I think right next to China Dynasty or whatever it was called at the time. I cried from the house all the way to the liquor store. I cried from the liquor store all the way back to the house. And I came to the house and she was like, "You all right?" I said, "Look, go in the back. Go in the back. I need to talk to my dad." I looked over at my dad and he could see that I was crying. And I was crying because I had disrespected a man that put me through Catholic school, that put me in races, that put me in a place to where I could do some of the shit that I was able to do that a lot of black kids never had the fucking opportunity to do. How dare I disrespect that man? The same man that when I was in high school and the kids were going around and everybody was rocking Averex jackets. I know you guys can remember what Averex jackets were and how much they cost at the time. That man went out there, worked his ass off to buy his 16-year-old son a $500 leather jacket so his son can feel wanted at school. That man put me in Catholic school from fucking kindergarten all the way through my fucking high school years. Pardon my French, but I was just so beside myself. How dare I disrespect this man when many black men don't even have a father in their life? And I couldn't believe that she encouraged me to do this. And I was just like, God, I was just so mad. And he hugged me and he said, "Son, it's all right. Because I'll tell you this, there is nobody that can talk to me the way that you just talked to me and get away with it. But he said, you can do it any day you want." And I said, "Dad, I would never do that again." And he said, "Doesn't matter. I just want you to know that you are my son. You are my boy. Nobody gets over on your father, but there's always a spot for you to do whatever you need to do." And I wasn't trying to get over on my father, but the point I'm trying to make is, how dare I say something like that? How dare I show that I'm not grateful for all the things that this man had done for my life? And when he cried with me, it taught me a lot about love, because a father's love is different from a mother's love. A mother can teach you about nurturing. She can teach you about, how to value your own self, but there's a certain type of love that you get from your father. And he looked at me and he hugged me and I said, "Dad, I will never disrespect you again." I thought he was damn near about to call my brother on me, but he didn't. He just showed me that he was going to love me regardless. And the next day, I had to take him to the airport. I get in my car at the time. My son's mom gets in the car. My son gets in the car. My dad gets in the car. I drive him to the airport. And he hugged me. And he said, "I'm going to love you no matter what." He looked over at my son's mom. And he said, "Take care of my son. And my son will take care of you." She hugged him and she cried, damn near even hugging him, and said that she wanted him to come back. And those were the good days in the relationship. Of course, everything wasn't bad. And he hugged my son and he said, "You're the next heir to this family." How the fuck could I disrespect that man? I couldn't. The point I'm trying to make to you guys is simply this. Whether you know your father or whether you don't know your father, if you have that opportunity till this day, I promise you it will be the best thing you've ever done to experience what it's like to talk to that man, to share memories with that man. There is no love like a father's love for his child. The fourth point, dating. As you can see, the man can dress. He was fly. Not a Rolling Stone type of fly, but he was definitely fly. And he taught me a lot about dating, what type of woman to date, everything. So the first point I want to make is simply this. The white t-shirt test. Now he calls it the white t-shirt sun test. I know a lot of you guys can identify with this. In my early 20s, I used to do a lot of wearing t-shirts, right? White t-shirts or black t-shirts, just wearing t-shirts, right? And then one day I was about to go out on a date and I was about to put on a white t-shirt. He took the shirt and he put it up to like where the sun was at the window. He said, "Do you see anything on this t-shirt that may look yellowish?" And I was like, "Yeah, but washed it. It wasn't bad. But he said, "No, son." He said, "Dump that t-shirt in the trash, get your ass up, and go over there to 18th Street and 6th Avenue." That was where TJ Maxx was. Or if I was in Atlanta, he'll do the same thing. He would tell me all the time when he visited Atlanta, "Take them t-shirts, put them in the trash, take your ass over there to Buckhead, and go into TJ Maxx." Right there where 400 is if you guys are in Atlanta. And this right here was some good advice, because a lot of guys that I see out there, you don't always recognize when your clothing may be not on point. And my father was big on that. So it taught me a lot about taking care of myself, making sure my image is right. Did some of it stick? Yes. Did all of it stick? No. But you get the message nonetheless. I got fresh t-shirts. I went over to TJ Maxx, got me like a 3-pack for like $20, which I think might have been Calvin Klein, a Hilfiger, one of those brands right there. You guys know what I'm talking about. So I go buy the t-shirts, right? I bring them back home, and now I got my pack of t-shirts. It's like, yeah, you know what? You were right, Pop. I got my pack of t-shirts, and I'm getting ready for my date, and I'm about to put on a fresh white t-shirt. This man tore me the hell up and said, "I hope you're not going out there without a collared shirt." I damn near wanted to lose it. And he goes, "Son, you got to have fresh clothes at all times." And I was like, "Why you made me go over there and get the t-shirts then?" He was like, "T-shirts are something you need, but you ain't wearing no damn t-shirt out here to a date." Now, I know some of the younger guys who may come across this content. If you're a Generation Z type of guy, you might say, "Hell, I just wear t-shirts or I don't even date, so I don't even have these problems." But your image is more important than that. Kevin Samuels talked about that. But like I said, some of this information stuck and some of it didn't. So I'm like, "So I can't wear the t-shirt?" And he goes, "No, you gotta wear a collared shirt." If you're gonna have a date with a young lady, you always gotta be fresh and fly. So Pops put me up on a little game, man. And that definitely stuck to this day. I go out on a date, I always wear a collared shirt. But some of you younger guys, you guys might decide to wear t-shirts, but you might want to think about clearing that up as you get older. And when I would wear those collared shirts or when I would wear a suit jacket, I was always getting some appreciation from the ladies. But if my dad wasn't there, I promise you, I would be out there wearing t-shirts or dates, probably still to this day. So that's a little bit of information for you guys. Make sure your white t-shirts is fresh. And if you're going to go out on a date, make sure you have a collared shirt at all times. Now, I know some of you older vets, you guys already know this type of stuff, but let's just say I'm talking to the young ones here, the ones that's willing to listen. But it taught me a lot of information. The third thing that he taught me about dating was choose a woman that likes you first. And at the time, I didn't really understand what that meant, but I've said it in other videos as well. You always want to get with a woman that likes you, because you guys know how it is. You ever see a guy who's like really trying to impress a woman that does not like him? He's trying to get her attention. He's trying all these ways to show her that he could possibly be the one for her. And what does she do? She always shades or friend zones that guy, because that guy is always chasing after her. But he told me, he said, make sure that you choose women that like you first. Because when you choose a woman that likes you first, you have to do less work, but then also it puts her in a position where she's willing to please you. She's willing to make you happy because she is a real woman, not a modern woman. Real women love pleasing their men because they know relationships bring them the most happiness. My mom used to always say, "You only like the girl on the float." So here I am chasing after the damn girl on the float. My dad saw that action and said, nope. You need to stop that immediately. Start choosing women that like you. So I was thankful to him for that. The next point, commanding respect in your relationships. So, I told you guys on many different occasions that I had been in a 3-year, a 4-year, and a 10-year relationship. But I also learned from my dad's relationships after him and my mom decided to go their own ways, is that one time my dad was dating this woman and she was like a real modern woman, like boss babe before we even knew what the term boss babe was. This is an accomplished corporate woman in New York City who happens to have like a nice house in Bedford-Stuyvesant, like one of those nice brownstones. So she's feeling herself. She's got college degrees on top of college degrees. And here she is dating my father. So one day I came in the house and they were in there arguing. It was mostly her doing a whole bunch of arguing, right? And she cursed. Now, my dad does not curse. I probably heard my dad curse like 3 times throughout my whole freaking life. My dad looked at her and said, "Bitch, don't you ever raise your voice in my house or curse in front of my son." Now, as I came through the door, I was making a face like, "You done really done it now, woman," because I never really saw my dad curse. But I also knew not to get on his nerves to that point. But after he said that, I looked at her. She turned around and she said, "I'm sorry I cursed in front of you." Now, some of you guys would know what that means. A lot of you guys won't. So what that means is that this woman who went and got beside herself said, "I'm in this man's house. I cursed in front of his kid. Let me apologize on the spot," because she was fearful of losing that man. And then she went outside of the apartment and she said she was going to get her nails done. My dad looked at me and I said, "Dad, you all right? Like, I never see you curse." He's like, "Nah, son, it's not about that. It's about commanding respect. This is my house. This is the house that I go to work every day to be able to pay the rent in this house. Also, you are my boy. How does it look if I'm sitting up here getting cursed out in front of my son? How is my son going to look at me?" And I said, "Dad, the way I'm looking at you right now, the one thing I know is that you don't play around." He said, "Son, I'm being serious." So I put on a serious face and I understood what he said. He said, "I will never see that woman again." And he never did. And what I learned from that was to take no shit in my relationships. Now, if I do something bad, I'm definitely going to be accountable. Because from that moment right there and there, I learned what it is like to command respect in your own castle. And I'm hoping that a lot of you guys feel the exact same way. When we go out there, we put our butts on the line and we come home to our peaceful environment, we don't want it interrupted by nobody. But lastly, if you guys have the ability to connect with your father and you haven't, please take this opportunity to definitely do that while he is still alive. Because a lot of things that you guys are going through in your lives, your father went through, and your father is the only person that can help you navigate those waters. I get that relationships are hard and there might have been some hurt on both sides. But once he's gone, he's gone. Until next time, fellas, let me leave you with this.
I was born by the river in a little tent, and oh, just like
Brother, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come.
Every day is Father's Day on this channel, fellas. Have a great weekend. Until next time, peace. I'm out.